And we're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Live Reality Games. And we are back covering the finale of Survivor Angelica, Blessings and Curses. I'm Parker, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Nathan. Nathan, what's going on?
I am feeling great. It was a great finale, a lot of fun, and I'm glad we're here with all these great people.
Absolutely. Let's introduce these great people. And all of them been on the podcast this season. We know who these people are, but let's introduce them anyway. We got first, I always say it, he's the host with the most. We got Jason. Jason, what's going on?
Hey, how are you? Doing great over here. Excited to chat about this and kind of put a finale recap onto everything. It was a fun season.
Yes, it was. A great finale, too, like Nathan said. Join us in the top right for me, maybe different for someone else. We got Sandra. Sandra, what's going on?
Hi, glad to be here. Nice to see everyone again.
Then we got under Nathan, I believe. We got Jared. Jared, what's happening?
Hey guys, thanks for having me again. I'm excited to put a bow on this.
And rounding out our great final three this season. I'm really not just saying that. It's a great final three. We got Matt. Matt, what's happening?
With that, my full name, Parker.
Sorry, Matty Culper.
2023 Allergy Challenge Beast winner, Matt Culper. Thank you.
My apologies. I did not
okay.
say your full government name. I tend to not do that with people. I don't want to be rude.
It's fresh. It's okay. I'll give you that.
I'm really excited to get into this. We got a great finale to cover. We got our final three. We got the host. Let's just get right into it. We are going to start off this episode with getting right into the challenge. But first of all, I want to just see where some of our players' heads we're at this point in the game. Sandra, you knew once you found out that this was going to be a Final Four fire making type challenge, what would you have done if you won that challenge?
Oh gosh. Well, kudos to Matt. I mean, the fact that he just gave up. That's the one. Now you got to refresh my memory a little bit because I haven't watched that episode in a while. So that was when Matt gave Jared immunity, right?
I'm saying essentially, if you
okay,
had won,
I just want to make sure I'm in the.
No,
right
you're right.
spot.
You're right. If you had won the Final Four necklace, what were you going to do? Who were you going to put in? Do you think you would have put yourself in? What do you think you would have done at that time?
I definitely would not have put myself in. I wouldn't have made that move. I would not have given up immunity, for sure. I would have taken Jared to the end with me and then had Jordan and Matt do the fire making challenge. That's what I would have done. For sure.
Jared, what about you if you found yourself with the necklace?
Yeah, I thought I was going to win the game, so I didn't have anything to prove, so I would have taken myself, and I would have taken Sandra for my loyalty, and matchup wise, I felt I could beat her. In my head, it took a really long time to set up that challenge, so I'm thinking obstacle course, and I'm like, all I gotta do is not pull a muscle, and I'm golden. So we'll get into the challenge, but it was interesting to see the snake, to say the least. So.
Matt, we'll get into the challenge specifically, but just in your head, when you heard it was fire making, at least probably thinking the traditional fire making at the time, did you know if right then and there, if you won, that's what you were going to do, or did that come after you had already won the challenge?
If I actually won that challenge, I was going to put myself in fire regardless.
Okay.
I could talk more about it, but by final 6, I felt like my days were numbered. So every opportunity I had, I was thinking of ways that I could just put another notch in my belt. And we can go more into my thought process as it was going, but
of course,
I got a hot take when it comes time for it. So,
oh boy, love a hot take.
What do you mean exactly when you say your days were numbered?
Because once Jason decided, I was convinced that was me. Because I had already heard my name heading into that tribal council. So once the idol got played, I was just, I was very reluctant. I was content with being Having made merge and going to jury, I accomplished a lot of what I wanted to, so I was pretty content at that point. So the shock and awe of it not being me lit a fire under my ass and really got me thinking I have to do everything I can. And then when Kai ended up going, then I really felt like I was screwed. So I was just counting down the minutes at that point, thinking I had to do whatever I could.
So let's talk about this challenge. As Jared noted, being out there in the real time, it took a little bit of time to set up. Jason, were these two puzzles, this tower puzzle and the snake puzzle, were these new for Angelica, or have they been used in the past and I'm just forgetting?
No, these are both new this year. We always try to bring in a few new challenges or kind of modify previous challenges to, spin them however we can, put our interpretation on it. So yeah, these are brand new. There was a lot of testing that went on behind the scenes to see how we were going to make these work the way we wanted to and catch any variables and inconsistencies. And the tower was kind of it's one of those quick fillers. It's difficult in itself because it's at the end of the game. I mean, if we put that at the beginning, it's done in probably 1 minute. Everybody gets it, no problem. But when you put that at the end, it is just you're sitting there trying to figure out how to put this thing together. You watch the people struggle through it, and we tried to make the instructions for it as easy as possible because there were multiple ways you could solve this puzzle with the pieces that were given to you and create an equal sized height all the way up. But the key was to make each level have the same amount of pieces in the same shape. So you really had to figure out what worked together to get you that height in that increment so that they were all the same. So it was difficult, but it was easy. And we figured throw it in at the end as a filler, as one of the stages, and it should rattle some brains for a little bit.
I noticed that before the snake started between these three, you told them that you're going to start a timer. I think it was about 10, 15 minutes or so. Was that there in place just so we wouldn't be here all day doing this challenge if no one could actually get it?
Initially, you always worry how you're going to end up with timing. But this challenge, the crew all tried it, and it just took forever. And it was just hard for people to get through it. I think maybe one person might have gotten all the way up to the top and got the ball through. So we're thinking, this isn't going to be a thing. So how can we reinvent this a little bit? Let's do increments. Once you get to a certain level, you don't have to start all over again. You can start at that level. And then there's also, we actually talked about point values. Like, all right, maybe somebody gets to certain points associated with it. We tried every combination of things. And really that was, we'll set a timer. Whoever gets the furthest at the end of that timer is there. But let's hope to God that somebody can get that ball to the top. And, to see it happen, it was just, my reaction is about as authentic as you're going to see it. I mean, I was so freaking excited that somebody did it. So there was a lot of emotion there for me. A lot of that was true, just like me in the moment, enjoying the fact that we put together something that came to fruition the way we really envisioned it to happen. So those puzzles aren't the easiest to create. They're long, they're tall. The wood can get wet from sitting out all weekend. Or it can get dry and kind of warp. So we had to make some adjustments with some wire on the back and make sure everything was square and true. All the little things that, just go into making a challenge go off without a hitch. So, we're a nervous wreck. We're sweating. It's hot. The sun finally came out and was beating down on all of us. So.
That watching Matt do that challenge and Jared, you getting as close as you were, made me have more appreciation for the CBS contestants because when they do it, they're out there day 10, day 11 in very difficult conditions, not eating, not sleeping, and they somehow get it done. I've never tried this challenge out myself. I know I'd be terrible at it. Nathan, how do you think you would do with that?
Which part in particular?
The snake part.
Oh gosh, this one, I feel like we've seen some version of the snake before in a couple LRGs as well as the CBS version. This one seemed a lot harder than some of the other ones I've seen.
In what way?
I don't know. It just felt like it was a lot easier for the ball to fall off. It felt like the controls were a lot faster. Am I wrong on this, you think?
There's some variables, I think, like you were saying. Some of the snakes are kind of a shallow, path to the top. Other ones are more of an angle, like a zigzag. And this was more of a, U-shaped S curves that just really had defined lines to it. And that was the toughest part about it, was just figuring out, how much leverage you can pull on each side. And I've seen other ones that they look really smooth when people do it. So either they have a lot of experience or those boards just slid, with a lot less friction than maybe ours did, just being in the sunlight with that fresh paint on there and everything else. But yeah, I don't know. Really fun challenge. And we had a lot of fun, creating that idea and then having somebody, build it for us.
So Matt, you are going to win this challenge. And first of all, just because I didn't say it before we start, I wanted to. Total badass move that you put yourself in and you won. Like that's the kind of stuff you want to see, truly, man. So that was a super cool move. Glad it worked out. My question for you is had you known it was a puzzle, do you think you still would have put yourself in, or was that happening no matter what?
It was happening no matter
Okay.
what. I just think from a fire making standpoint, I was always comfortable with it. So that was one. As I alluded to before, I felt like my back was up against the wall anyway. So I needed to do an Underwood in this moment. And my take is that I think Underwood is a top tier winner. And I know people do not like that. But the man won, given the circumstances, doing everything perfectly to the point where you can't even do a season like that anymore because it's just like, what's left? You saw it all. So I had the blueprint, and my goal was to try and recreate as much of it as I could.
That is a
And I think
genuinely hot take. I feel like in these streets, no matter what it is, Survivor, a TV show, whatever, someone's like, oh, I got a hot take, but it's like, depending on who you ask, it's probably not that hot. That is a genuinely hot take.
it's even hotter because Rick Devens is like top 3 player for me. So it pains me to know that like a guy that led to his downfall is my like top guy. It's like all ironic in so many ways. But I really wanted to put myself in regardless of whatever situation was. Real fire puzzle. It didn't matter.
Jason, you were talking about a little bit before we went live about where the decision was to just not do traditional fire making in the sense. So do you want to talk about that for the viewers who maybe don't know the reason?
Yeah, I mean, fire making is always fun. We had used it quite a bit in the last several seasons, and we also had those fire puzzles that we really hadn't. We've used it kind of mixed in here and there. We really thought that was a fun challenge to kind of put in there, and because it represented fire and it was the true flame, we thought, all right, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's do something different. Let's throw everybody for a loop. They're thinking they're going to be making true fire, and you may have somebody that is just excellent at fire making, and let's just say a hypothetical situation, Matt is terrible at fire making and says, you know what, I'm not going to put myself in this. I'm going to keep my immunity and send 2 other people who I think are terrible at making fire and see what happens. Or maybe they're both really good and we'll see who's there, and they might be terrible at puzzles. And this whole thing could backfire. Maybe Matt was really good at puzzles and he sits himself out. So, we sit there and think about all the different scenarios that could happen. And we said, let's have fun with it. We've worn our true fire making out the last couple seasons. Let's give it a break. Doesn't mean we're done with it. You may see it again, but or a twist on a combination thereof. But yeah, so we decided let's throw this puzzle in there and see what happens.
Jared, I know you said that at this point in the game, you're thinking you're the winner, or at least you're the front runner to win. You have a good shot at winning. Were you worried about Matt after he won this fire making challenge? Did you think that was going to prop him up, or did you think that wouldn't be enough for him to overtake you?
Definitely the latter. I still thought it was me and Sandra in the driver's seat. To me, that really hurt because, for me, the moment of the season was, Cole tearing up. I mean, I just thought that was such a beautiful moment. I could confidently say I would have teared up too if I had won that. And, the jury witnesses that. The one
Oh.
challenge the jury witnesses. So, that was just a absolutely huge moment, for Colt. But he got to tip his cap because it was a come from behind win as well, and also led to the LRG Challenge Beast award. So I mean that challenge had so many ramifications. Now my hot take on this was his decision to go into fire making. To me, wasn't that spicy. Not to be a hater, but just a couple of reasons. First, to his point, it was the only move he had to do. So to me, I think that was definitely the default, but also who he put in. We all thought that it was going to be a fire making, like an actual fire making. So he puts in the one person who's never played fire, who's never done a fire before in Jordan. I also thought if you really wanted to put the biggest threat to win the game, you put in Sandra, because I still think Sandra was the odds-on favorite at that time. But what impressed me about Culp was how he sold it to everybody. I mean, to me, Matt's the best social player I've ever played with in an LRG. I've played in 8, and he is hands down the best. And I'm happy to get into that. I know I'm a little long-winded here, but
You're
yeah,
good.
it was. I mean, he's just so genuine as a person. I mean, it's impossible not to like him. I mean, you have to hate people not to like Colt. And then, but he's also strategically smart in just the way he leverages his social abilities, and that was just a prime example right there. And then the second thing that really impressed me with Colt was that it wasn't fire; it was a puzzle, and he was losing that challenge to the point where I'm like, Jordan's about to beat Colt. And again, Colt had another come from behind win and a lot of resolve. So I was not impressed with the decision to go into fire, but I was impressed with how he presented it and how he had the resolve to end up beating Jordan when he was losing.
I'll tell you exactly why I decided to choose Jordan for this.
Please.
And Jared, I know you and I have spoken about this
Yeah.
since the game. I think I think you and I have definitely different opinions about our positioning going in to final travel or what could have been final travel. I thought you were more poorly positioned, just given how some of those vote outs happened. So I figured from who was on the jury, and if it got to the point where you and I were sitting on there together, I think I had more favor. Up until that point, nobody had written my name down to go home. I felt very secure in the relationships for even the folks that I did put down. Like, we can get to it, but somebody like Alejandro, to his face, I told him, I'm voting for you. And in that moment, still didn't write my name down. Sandra, even though I voted for her twice, still at no point wrote my name down. So I felt, to your point, there was a lot of sociability that was going in my favor. So I felt from that perspective, I had a one up on you from a sociability standpoint. Jordan, for the rookie season that she had going into that, fire
What's
making
with the
challenge.
Balloons? Can I?
I don't know. I really don't know. That's crazy.
Okay, sorry.
Not
it's
me.
Still going. It's still going. I don't get it.
Sorry.
My hands are here. I'm doing nothing. I felt Jordan also. Nobody had written her name down the entire time. So she to me was my biggest adversary because, and I had said that in a couple tribals back before she had played the safety without power. Like I wanted her to be the one that was going, and then we moved into Sandra. Sandra didn't go. Like it was just a hodgepodge of things that didn't work out in my favor. But I still felt that Jordan was the one that I was going to need to take out because of her favorability. In my mind, she was the person to beat. She was the one I didn't want to sit next to, and that's how I came up with that decision.
Sandra, I know you said that ideally at that Final Four, you said in a confessional Matt would have gone just because you had a Final Two with Jordan and you had a Final Two with Jared, so you don't have to break loyalty with anybody. But you also did mention that you thought of the two that Jordan might be tougher just based on your perception. Was there any part of you that was hoping Jordan would go out in that fire making just because you did think she'd be tough competition, or were you rooting for
No.
her all the way?
I was rooting for her all the way. I mean, even if Jordan ended up winning the game, like I wanted it to be us three. I wanted it to be Jared, Jordan, and myself. And if I lost to one of them, I'd be happy. Like, not that I'd be unhappy, mad if you had won. I'd be happy for you, of course. But I wanted it to be us three. Like we were, a trio, like the whole game. I had a final two with both, but my ride or die was truly Jared, so I wanted definitely to be me and Jared at final two if it was a final two. But for final three, even if I had lost to Jared or Jordan, I would have been happy just making it to final
There
three.
was no way to play this where I felt like any one of those three that I could have put in with me I would have gotten a vote for, because I felt like they were so closely aligned with each other that it was just, it was a toss up. Anyone could have left, and I felt like that vote wouldn't have gone to me anyway. So I was really just trying to, do the math in my head at that point as well.
I got a question for the panel because, I thought Jordan played a great game, especially, as a rookie. Should have won Rookie of the Year. It's neither here nor there. But, and I also thought she had a great moment with Matt just at the end where she's trying to convince Matt to take her. And you can really see the authenticity out of Jordan. All she says is, I really appreciate you. They're both crying. I thought that was the best two-person confessional in the game. But I didn't see it from Jordan. So when Matt is constantly at like final 5, final 4 telling me it's between Sandra Jordan, I'm just like, okay, Matt, let's see about the finale. But I'm just curious from Matt and Sandra's perspective. I mean, I'm missing it from Jordan, particularly from the strategy.
I think there is a lot of emotion that you might be leaving on the cutting room floor that is going into maybe how the jury is deciding their votes. I don't personally think out of this group that everybody was tunnel vision on who is the best strategic player. And the reason I think that is also why in Final Tribal, I was focused on a very emotional, heart-tugging type of connection with folks. I had a lot to work with, I thought, but I think the jury holistically was comprised of a lot of emotionally savvy people who could recognize the strategic and the social and the physical. But I just felt, this was me reading the room. You could have read it differently, and that's totally fine. But that's where I felt Jordan could have run away with it from a vote perspective.
Yeah, I think Jordan had a I think it would have been tough being next to her. And no, she definitely wasn't strategic, but I think, it was her first game. I mean, she didn't, know what safety without power is, or like we had to explain a lot of the game to her, but she caught on fast, and she learned quickly, on the moves and stuff, and was always willing to work with us and follow our lead. So her strategic game definitely wasn't there, but it's more so because she was a rookie. But the fact that as a rookie, I mean, she was a challenge beast for sure. She was amazing at the challenges. Her social game was on point. And, so it's hard to have all three. It's hard to, be a strategic person, a challenge beast, and a social beast as well, because obviously I'm definitely not a challenge beast, so, that's, 2 out of 3 isn't bad though. But so I think that too, like, just because Jordan's not strategic doesn't necessarily mean she's not in the running.
I have a question for you, Jason, as a host, because, I've been fortunate enough to be on production for a game, and I always personally find it really exciting when you have somebody who is not coming from a super fan background, or even if they are a super fan, they never played one of the games before. So they're really doing it for their first time. They're the rookie in a sense. As a host, is it almost, let me phrase it this way. How exciting is it for you when you have someone like Jordan coming in who's a complete rookie to the game and is doing about as well as everybody else who has experience. Because, when you cast people who play games before, doesn't mean they're going to play fantastic, but they kind of know what to do and what not to do. Whereas a rookie, they don't have that same level of experience. So how exciting is that for you when you have someone like Jordan come in and crush it?
Jordan exceeded all of our expectations, and just the history behind when rookies come into a game, generally they don't fare well. Maybe they make merge. They're still trying to get their bearings of what's going on, the pace of the game, the pace of the social part of it, and just, I think it hits them a little bit more. And for her to come in and just really play a great social game, be a challenged beast, be there, be in the moment, be present, and be physical, be mental, and be part of every single challenge and every single decision through and through. And then to make it all the way to the end, she really had a great run, and it's, exactly what we would want to have happen in any rookie player that comes into the game and does. So, and for her, it was just a monumental, thing for us to see that happen. So I'm super proud of her. I hope she plays more games. We would love to have her back if she ever wants to play again. And I'd say watch out. She's definitely a dangerous player. She has some fierce way about her that you can see. It's only a matter of time until she steamrolls all the way to the end and takes a win. So
I do think there also is something on this topic of Jordan where, I wasn't out there in person. I wasn't on the jury. I'm just talking from a viewer. But I do think there is something to, this person doesn't have any experience with the show, has never played a game again. And they're pretty much on par with people who have played at least one game before. I think as a jury member, that is something that you kind of that you almost want to hang your hat on. I think some jurors could vote for that. So I do think that might be an underreported part of why Jordan was a jury threat. What do you think, Nathan?
Oh, 100%. If all of them are equal to me as a juror and one of them, this is their first game, I'm 1,000,000% voting for that person.
Yeah, I agree with that. Was there any other was there anything else about Jordan that we want to discuss before Final Tribal again? We got to give her flowers. She really did a great job.
I just want to bring up one other thing about the challenge. I thought a really interesting piece of it was at the beginning of the challenge, we were asked to pick a jury member to assist us with the,
I didn't know that.
With the snake portion.
Yeah, they didn't show that on the episode, and I thought that was a big part of that.
Yes, I'd love to hear the panel's reasoning for why they picked which juror.
Well, I'll lead off. My number one pick was Jason, because in my head, I'm thinking about the present, right? I feel good about my positioning. I'll get back to my positioning, but live in the present, just win the challenge, knowing how big that is. And I was looking at people that were competent, who could, place the ball quickly back. So I thought Jason would be money. And then I struggled with my next pick. And it was between Jabbar and Ty. Jabbar, because if I had to guess anyone that would, vote for me of the jury, it would be Jabbar. So I figured he at least likes me. And Ty, I just thought would be, laser focused and, would do what he could. So I picked Ty. And it was funny because Ty even said to the other jury people, "Oh, jury management. That's why Jared's, picking Ty." And nothing to do with jury management. I just wanted to win. And then one last thing before I pass on the panel, I just want to give a shout out to Ty, because I know Ty's been on the pod a few times talking about me, and I really haven't talked about him. But just what a great guy. I mean, if really great values. I think he's going to be a great father, to his, I think 1-year-old now, or maybe less than one. And anyone who's lucky enough to call him a friend, should consider himself lucky. So just a really great guy, played a really great game. I thought he was the most cunning player to play, and just want to give him that shout out. Sandra, I know you picked Veronica. What about you? What was your thinking?
So mine was, well, first I wanted a tall player because I'm short and that thing was really tall. So definitely wanted someone taller. I would have picked Jason, but Matt must have picked Jason. Didn't someone already pick?
Jordan picked Jason with the #1 overall pick.
Oh, all right, Jordan. I knew someone had Jason. So after Jason was picked, I definitely went into jury management mode. I needed someone tall, and I knew Veronica, like we kind of like weren't really all that tight. And I definitely voted her off. So that's why I picked Veronica. Her height and also jury management. For sure. And
I had a similar thought with Veronica, mainly because at the time of her vote, once we had merged, I know she and I were she sort of left with a weird taste in her mouth about me, I think, and I thought that would have been a good olive branch. But at the end of the day, in that moment, I was like desperate for just who will be in my corner 1,000%, and that's why I went with Kai. I wasn't thinking about height. I wasn't thinking about like the logistics of it. I just knew that in the wake of how she left and the relationship that she and I had in the game, that she would have like busted her ass 1,000 times over to make sure that she was helping me the best way she could. So that's how that decision was made for me.
And it proved to be fruitful because each of the people we picked ended up voting for us at the final.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm sorry, Parker. I have a question for Jason. I mean, how did this come about? This idea. I mean, I think it's very intriguing. I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword with how much maybe it could impact the final, but definitely a great idea.
Yeah. So it's very tough when we have a situation where we need assistance on a challenge. It happens every once in a while. Sometimes it's earlier in a game, sometimes it's later. And it comes down to we don't want anyone from crew to have a hand in any of it. Because if, God forbid, let's just say, Chris falls over and trips trying to retrieve something for you and then screws up your game, it just looks bad when it's a crew member. And we don't want anything to shed a bad light on anybody that we impacted the game. Let you players hash it out with each other. You've been doing this the whole time together, so we're going to let that kind of play out that way. We felt that it was only fair to, at first we thought, well, maybe we'll do people that were not on the jury, early outs, but we felt that the connections and just having someone that we can rely on that's in this game currently knows what's going on and will be faithful about what they're doing and be honest and be as true as they can about it. And we had conversations like, don't be malicious about this. This is truly here to help people out, excel them to the next level. You're just there as an extra set of hands, maybe some emotional support, cheerleader type deal. And that's really what it came down to is I think we're just going to let the players choose, and it's going to be from, jury on. And we think that's the fairest way to go about it. So I didn't realize that much thought went into it. Hearing from everybody now, I like hearing that. And it definitely is a note that's been taken to have a discussion more about involvement with players and things like that when we have helpers. So I think we try to test everything and hit every avenue that we can and think about every anomaly that there might be in there. And that's, you guys all went down an area that I don't think we fully invested in. Hearing the amount of thought and passion that you had about who you picked and why, and then the if this person takes this person, I want to take that person, or I want this because, jury management. So that's awesome to hear. It's input to me. And, I'm sure the rest of the crew is hearing this now and some notes as well. So you guys took it to another level than we even thought it could go. So that's awesome.
Well,
Very good. We can now expect Sandra, Matt, Jared, and Jordan all on Survivor Angelica Game Changers. That's a good note. We'll put that in the box. Sorry, Jared, go ahead.
No, I just say I really appreciate your answer because in my head, I'm like, how could you have done it differently? And I was thinking crew, but to your point, you don't want crew to impact the game. So, from a player perspective, I appreciate your answer because to me, it does seem like, you thought of every permutation. So,
yeah, we have had instances where we've had crew helpers I won't say necessarily like our core crew, the usual ones, but helpers that we bring in that have helped out during challenges and, caused errors and caused problems that have cost a person a challenge win or a tribe a challenge win. So it's accidental as it can be, it still has an impact on things, and we don't want it to be our fault. We want it to be the player's fault, and anybody associated with the game that paid to be here. We're there because we're putting on this game. We shouldn't be doing that for you. So, get involved on all levels that we can, and keep it as fair as possible.
Well, we're going to get to final tribal council. And first, a lot of ways we can go. So first, let's start with you, Jason, your perspective. You've seen a lot of final tribals. You've been on you've been on one end as a player answering questions. You've been on the other end as a host. What stood out to you about this final trial specifically? Did you think the jury was more logical, more emotional? Were you surprised by the final three's answers? What stood out to you about this final tribal?
I don't know if there was any surprise with some of the answers, but I think that there was a lot of technicalities in the questions that were given to them. There was some deep thought and a lot of connections that I don't always see all of them. I get some of it, but again, seeing some of the confessionals now and seeing some of the backstories and talking to people post game, it all really starts to make sense for me. And I take that in and I try to do a better job each season on figuring out what people are doing, reading their body language, their conversations. I think the jury did a really great job deciphering each player as their own and breaking down and painting a picture for each person, so that they can better decide on who they wanted. There was some storytelling in there. There was, a lot of filling in the blanks for people. There was a lot of whys and whats, and I like that. And even some of the, what do you think about this? And if this had happened, would we have done this? And those things, every tribal is going to be different. Every tribal is going to be different. But, I don't think I could have asked for any different of an outcome from all of this. I think it went really well. There was actually a lot of long-winded answers, and we were very nervous about.
Sorry.
It's not just you, Sandra. It's everyone. Like some of the questions that were asked, just that it's going to lead down into a deep conversation, which we never want to cut anybody short, and we get nervous. This was our first year at this campground. We weren't sure what their plans were at the pavilion, after us leaving, if they had a breakfast planned or if they had a lunch planned for later. And we were told, a certain time frame, we got to kind of start wrapping things up. And so, I'm watching the crew and I'm watching faces and I'm nervous, and, I'm not the one doing really much talking at all. This is for them to hash out and figure out who. I try not to involve myself at all, other than just to kind of moderate and keep things moving. And I felt bad a few times, and maybe it affected things. Maybe it didn't. I truly hope it didn't. But, if I ever slighted anybody or cut anybody short, I do feel sorry, but understand that we were really trying to keep things moving along for the sake of the variable and unknowns of, are we okay to stay here as long as we were? We kept hearing the tractors, the Kubotas, and the owners driving by in the background. And I know they're spying, wondering what we're doing. Are they done yet? Like, we got to pick up their cabins. We try to run a tight ship. So all in all, I think that Tribal was great. Everybody got into a lot of the fine details that make a great pitch for why they should win. Nobody really just kind of sat there like, yeah, I'm just the rider here. I'm here because I floated along to the end. Everybody made strategic moves, alliances, and it really shows based on their conversations that they had with people. And you can't ask for anything better than that.
I do have out of curiosity, a question from a production point. When you go into the final tribal, your production, the crew, you tell the finalists, okay, it's time to start. Do they have like a time limit on how long they can go for? Do they have a limit on how many questions they can ask? Or is that more so not really a thing, and it's like you can ask whatever you want?
We do say, I think I started off by saying, everybody can ask a question or make a comment to each of the players and have them answer. but we'll let it carry on a little bit more because usually it is kind of a discussion. Most of the questions that are asked, they're looking for a response, and then they need to be able to give some sort of a response back. If I'm asking, Jared a question and I'm on the jury, I may have a comment after he gives me more information that, has been brought up because of my question. I may say, well, that's great. Now, what about this? Or it might spike another question that I may have for Sandra or Matt. And so we let it carry on a little bit. Most people are pretty respectful of just, they know what they want to ask. I think a lot of people know they've got a lot of time to think about it. As we're preparing for the final tribal. It doesn't show that way in the footage, but we've got probably maybe an hour to 2 hour window where we're cleaning up the cabins and hauling all the production equipment up to this pavilion area that we do this. So there's an amount of time where people can really start to think about what they want to ask and do. So we figure they come fully loaded.
I do. So let's talk with our final three here. A lot of ways we can go about this. I am a big fan of final tribals. It's one of the most exciting parts of the game for me as a fan because there's so many ways it can go and to approach it. I want to ask two different questions. We'll start with, to end on a positive note, we'll start with the more critical one. Obviously, you're all everybody's like, oh, I could have done better, could have, should have, would have, which I don't want to focus on that too much. So we're going to ask the positive one next. But just to start, I'm curious from this final three from the panel, was there anything you guys wish you could have said that looking back on, now thinking about it, oh, I wish I said this, or I wish I answered this person's question differently? What are the coulda, shoulda, wouldas from each of you from this final trial performance?
I definitely wish I was more vocal about the fact that nobody had put my name down to go home. I had made mention to it in a confessional prior, but by the time the nerves and the pressure of final travel hit, I did not harp on it as much as I wanted to, especially when I was leaning into my social game being paramount to how I got there. So I think maybe if I was able to emphasize that a little bit more, along with some of the relationships that I had that helped avert disaster for me, because I know Ty was last minute trying to use an extra vote to get me, and my relationships with the folks that he was running into to try and do that were so strong that it blocked it at the first chance. So all the shots that had been attempted at me were thwarted by the sociability that I had created and relationships that I had created with folks. So I think, my strategy always went back to my sociability. If I had been able to vocalize that a little bit more, maybe I would have gotten somebody's vote. I don't know.
Matt,
but yeah.
Do you think that there's one specific person that may have been influenced by that pitch if you had focused more on it? I mean, what's giving you that feeling that might have been the difference maker? Is there somebody out there that you think
I feel like it would have been Ty. Ty is such I think he loves somebody who takes big swings and is a very, very cerebral player. So if I was able to get deeper with how I believe his attempt at me was a no-go, I think maybe it would have garnered a little bit more respect from him. I don't know if it was always going to go to Jared, his vote. Truth be told, I thought maybe I had Veronica's by final trouble. I wasn't sure where votes were coming from or could come from. So I was really trying to placate to as many folks as I could, in the most authentic way that I could. If I could keep people laughing, if I could make people feel good about themselves while I was talking and create a connection with them, then by the time they put pen to parchment for who was going to win, I thought that I could leave some sort of meaningful impression from the chair to the booth so that they think of me.
While we're talking about Matt, I just want to give him his flowers for a second. The first was that watching back, the two most surprising games for me was Ty, because I didn't think Ty was going to oust me out as soon as we switched to Loa. But then Matt, because I really felt like, Matt, you were a big catalyst. You were kind of whipping up the Baca votes before the Jason vote. You were the catalyst with the Veronica. You were a catalyst with the Alejandro. And you and Kai, I felt like, were the catalyst behind Ty. And, to me, as someone that was clearly more logical than emotional and thinks about who's most deserving from a strategy perspective, I think that would have been a huge, area to focus on. But, to me, I felt like you had the best final tribal just because you did lean into the emotional, which clearly went out the day. And I think ultimately, put you in a position to even force a tie, which was really impressive. So just wanted to tell you that. And, you should be proud. I mean, I thought you did a great job. I thought you were the best of the three of us.
Thank you. I mean, thank you. First of all, I want to tee this up for Sandra, honestly, because had I listening to the fact that you two were ride or dies in that sitting on that bench, I felt like such an idiot. I was truly oblivious to how close you two were.
Which
And
surprised me because I thought Jason had mentioned to you that I would never write Jared's name down because I told Jason that I would never write Jared's name down.
honestly, in true me fashion, Jason probably looked me straight in the eye and said that, and it was over my head in that moment. I truthfully going into Final Tribal was so nervous and so I never imagined myself in that position to know what I'd do with myself when I got to that position. So anything that I thought I would have wanted to say prior to that was really hard to grasp onto. So for you, I think you told your game start to finish, and it was wonderful.
I
for
did,
you.
sorry.
No, you won.
Literally start to finish. I
No,
went on.
it worked because I felt like for folks, they might not have had that visibility into a lot of the things you were doing and a lot of the strings that you and Jared together were pulling. And the fact that you both were there at the end, so steadfast with each other was really, really, I don't know, to me, fatal because I was just like, this is a hard one to overcome for me, not knowing this. But it really gave you the opportunity to paint the picture however you wanted to.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a real good way for you to go into it. So I definitely want to hear more about, how you framed that going into it.
So Sandra, which we will get to, Matt, that is my next question. Certainly, Sandra, I know you won, so maybe this is a very dumb question, but just out of curiosity, do you have at least a moment in the final trial where, or something you wish you added, maybe put more emphasis on, or any coulda, shoulda, wouldas with any questions?
I know. I was thinking that too because I'm like, well, I won, so
right. It may not matter.
I probably wouldn't change anything, even though I do feel like I was really long-winded and may have lost a few jurors on that because I kind of went on and on. But like Matt says, you're so nervous during that time. Like you have a whole plan, and then when you're put on the spot, it's just like, and I'm not a great speaker, so I just freak out and tend to ramble. But yeah, no, I think I pretty much hit on every single point because I explained all the votes, and the 2 idle plays and, able to saving them for, I could only play them at 6 and 7. And so, being able to save them for 6 and 7 was huge. So I think I hit on all the points that I wanted to. I honestly didn't think I thought I had Jordan's vote and that's it. I thought I was getting 1. So I must have done something right.
Jared, from your perspective, do you have any hindsight being 2020, any coulda, shoulda, wouldas?
Yeah, where to begin? I just want to say, first off, just to give Sandra a lot of praise. Sandra was visibly nervous about speaking. We were talking about that while the fire making challenge was on. And, you got to give her credit, for pulling through. And I'll tell you, some people were convinced by her speech, Jabbar being, one of them. which to me was completely shocking because I was not convinced by your speech, Sandra. But you know,
I love
kudos
you,
to
Jared.
you. I love you too. Kudos, to you though, because I know that wasn't easy. So well done. First of all, I would have gone first. I've always been the belief, go last. Be the one to come in. But Sandra, I mean, said basically like my whole game. Which
Well, because we worked together, so it was, it was kind of
right.
like, yeah, it
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kayla vote in particular, Sandra's talking about the Kayla, how, she thwarted the Women's Alliance, which she did. But, it was really me and Pat with just our previous relationship. I don't take that away from Sandra because she absolutely, in her mind, I see it with the thwarting the Women's Alliance. So it definitely worked two ways. But just that, there was a lot of instances where Sandra, was saying her story and going through every single vote, was a huge advantage. Was just killer. And I'm like shaking the whole fucking time because it's like, how long are we gonna listen to this shit?
I did go on a long time, so he's not wrong.
I mean, like with all due respect, I mean, through your game didn't pick up until 7. Why are we talking about the Veronica Alejandro and Ty vote here? I got nervous. I sped up a lot of my questions. I know people were trying to leave. The campground was trying to leave. And I admittedly rushed a lot of my answers, and that's on me for internalizing it. But I think Matt said it best. I mean, the way I pick a winner is who had the best strategy, social, and physical, and it's very logical. And this was a jury that really leaned into the emotional, and my answers didn't give any emotional at all. I mean, I got into a little bit by just being, I'm typically, a physical threat. I didn't say charismatic threat, but I absolutely believe that as well. And I think that oftentimes lets me to be the merge boot. And that was my only emotional, aspect. And it paled in comparison to, Matt and even Sandra. So that was the woulda, coulda, shoulda, for me, just in general. And my questions were horrible. My answers to the questions were, really bad.
Well,
I think you should give
Go ahead,
yourself more credit. I know. I think you should give yourself more credit, Jared. Admittedly, going into Final Tribal, I thought I could outtalk you. I thought I could outtalk Sandra. I thought I could outtalk anybody. So I was feeling confident in that regard. But watching a lot of it back, and certainly sitting there in Final Tribal with you, I need to give you your due because you are an incredibly captivating speaker and you are hilarious in the most subtle, dry, and the most appreciative way. You say things hoping people will catch it, and if they don't, it doesn't matter because you know it was good. I love that, and I appreciate it. And you're quick. You're quick. So I hope you understand that if you thought you were fumbling, and both of you, honestly, very very good job. With your speeches, I definitely underestimated what I thought I could accomplish going in there when I came down to talking against both of you. So, I just want to.
No, that means incredibly a lot to me because I was not excited about this podcast today, and just hearing that, especially from you, and being a great talker yourself, obviously, just means a ton. I knew my positioning in the game. I knew you didn't see my game, so that's kind of what I was hoping for. Was hey, this is what I did behind the scenes. Very covertly. But yeah, I had that expectation I can out talk anybody, and to me, I was very humbled. And I didn't out talk you, Matt, or you, Sandra. So to me, it was a very humbling experience, and but
Well, neither one of us won Best Confessional, so I mean,
No.
it's all right.
Jason, I want to come to you before I get to my next question, because when you're a host, you're trying to put a great experience together, but there's a part of you that hopes that people walk away with a new friendship or even friendships with multiple people. And, it's been a year now, so these reactions aren't fresh, but it's really nice to see these three here giving each other props, even though one of them won and two of them didn't. They're all supporting each other in this way.
Yeah, I think it goes to show not just our game, but the community in general. Everybody has a love for Survivor or even just a live reality game, be it what it is. But we're given these opportunities to meet new people, play these games, and all share our lives with people. You come into these games and you have to open up. You're forced to just basically start from ground zero with complete strangers most often. I mean, other times maybe you've seen somebody in another game or limited experiences in games with people, but I think our game, we preach it a lot that we have a very family oriented type vibe to our game. Right from, camp life to, Ponderosa life to everything. We put on the full experience for people. We want you to have a good time. Let's face it, we pay to play these games. We're not being paid. So we want to put out the best thing we can. We want everybody to walk away with friendships. We don't want to see anybody, leave with a sour taste in their mouth. If it does happen, it's short lived, and they understand that it's just a game. And most often that's the case. Is everybody's like, all right, great job, kudos to whoever won, or kudos to who stabbed me in the back. You know what? That was a great move. It's all part of the game. And we tell people that at the beginning too. Like, you're going to make moves. Things are going to happen. It's going to get emotional. You got to do what you got to do to win this game, and that's part of it. And I think everybody respectively understands that and respects each other as a human being, that we all have emotions and we play into them. It's in this tribal was, I think there was a lot of emotions very high between the jury, our final three, even the crew. Like, we could feel it. There was a lot of energy with this team, and it was a fun one. I enjoy everybody that's here, and I think that this group has really stayed pretty close. We remain in contact on our little Facebook group chat and text messages with people, and I enjoy it. I love seeing that. Even from 2 seasons ago, we still have a chat group. People, chat around on that too. So friendships are great. I love that people come from all walks of life, all over the freaking, country to come play these games. And here they are from all different parts of the world talking to each other, having fun.
Well said. Well said. I think that you hit it right on the money there. So there's a reason I start out with the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, because as people, we can all tend to be hard on ourselves. Could have done better, even when we do a great job, like the three of y'all did. So let's spin it around. I want to ask this final three. What is the moment from the final trial you're most proud of? Either because you hit this point home, are you just proud of the confidence you ensued? Did you think you hit this question out of the park? Like, what are you most proud of as an individual from this final tribal?
I think that I was able to get some laughs, honestly. And, every bit of what I said was meant to have an air of humor to it, so that it embellished what may have been like a mid move and, somehow made it way more enjoyable to everybody. So I think just getting the crowd involvement was probably my favorite aspect of it all.
What about you, Sandra?
Okay, so I think first I was proud to even just be there. Like, the fact that I was in final three was that I was just happy with right there. But I was proud of the fact that I was able to answer some questions in Sway, because I know Jabbar and Veronica, their mind wasn't made up yet. So I was happy. I was proud of myself that I was able to actually answer their questions and sway their vote to me. So I was proud of the way I answered questions, which usually I'm not too good at.
Yeah, I mean, Jabbar was incredible. I mean, he went from not even knowing your name, he even forgot your name on an earlier podcast, to actually voting you. To me, the Jabbar vote
I was shocked.
It's a game. I mean, obviously I'm not, but like that one, I just don't understand for the life of me today. If he had said, he picked you for the two idols, locked in, that's fine. But
I asked him because I was, and it was, I can't even remember the question he asked. I want to go back and rewatch, but I guess it was my answer to whatever his question was.
yeah,
So.
his question was if there was one strategic, social, or physical. I can't believe I remember this, but
yes,
it happens when you win the memory challenge. Which, if there's one that you can lean into, which would it be?
That's right.
And I answered this one horribly. Sorry, Parker, but to me that was I should. You're always taught to answer the question the way you want it to be answered. To me, I wanted to harp on the strategy because I think no one saw that, but really, I felt like I encapsulated all three. So that question really, hamstrung me.
Yeah, because we had to pick one. That's right. That's right.
Sorry, I was just waiting to talk about Jabbar. This is like a therapy session, for me, to be honest with you.
It's y'all's podcast. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a great time. What about you, Nathan?
Yeah, I love y'all's great memory, or at least one of your great memories.
Jared, definitely not mine.
To think on the positive, because I can still go on the negative. Jason answered the question, "What did you learn from the game?" And to be honest with you, I didn't learn shit. At least at the time of Tribal. I was like, I knew what I was capable of. Like, I think all three of us, we were all grateful because we never have done this well. And I really give a lot of credit to the three of us for always having gratitude in the game, outside of the game, the opportunity that Angelica did. But, I'm proud of the learning experience that I had after the game. I mean, that was like a really long car ride. I went from having so much gratitude to being like, man, I let that slip away. And I really thought it took me a long time to, just conceptualize, how to get over it, how to be, secure in my game. I thought about, athletes thinking that they should be all-star votes and they got snubbed, or Pro Bowlers, they got snubbed. I even thought about people in elections, how some people think they're more deserving and they don't win. And then I just thought about other Survivor players like Suri, how revered she is and she's never won. So winning is great, but that should, not you shouldn't feel slighted about your game just because of a result. And watching these videos back, I'm like, man, I still think I should have won. But I really enjoyed watching it back, and people like Culp, acknowledging the humor, and just other nuggets, just made me feel good about the game, even if I didn't win.
You should be proud of your game, Jared. You played an amazing game, and
Thanks.
I was so happy to play it along with you, but I was also lucky to play it along with you. Like
The best quote I ever heard about this specific situation came from a good friend of mine, Pete Morgan. So I'm giving him credit because this is his quote. He said, "You don't have to be a win. You don't have to wear the crown to be a winner." And I think that's a great mindset because, there's only one winner. We all know that at the end of the day, and the winner should be proud of that. But doesn't mean that you can't get anything from the experience.
and in the end, you just like, even if you don't win, that doesn't mean you didn't play an awesome game. Like, you just don't know how the jury's going to vote. You don't know what they're thinking, and that's with anything. You just don't know how other people are going to view the game. And so it even if you don't get the votes, it's never personal, and it doesn't diminish the game you played.
Right. There's something that I think happens with everybody after every game, and that's that decompression time where you start reflecting back on everything. And it becomes this rabbit hole of either really good things or things you thought were good that all of a sudden turn bad real quick, and it gets dark. Whether you played a great game and everybody viewed it that way, you still will mentally beat yourself up over little things like, man, I wish I did this. Man, I wish I did that. Or why did I say this? Or what if I had done that? And that decompression time is most often when you're traveling back home. If you don't have anybody to travel with, you're traveling in the car, you're on the plane, and you're just trying to like let the world that you live in come back into your life. But you have this world that you just lived in that is so permanently stuck on you. And there's this fine line of in between, and it sucks. Reality sucks for a while. And you really start to second guess your real life decisions based on things that were happening in the game. It happens to 9 out of 10 people, I would say. You really start to evaluate your life, the decisions you make, the conversations you have, the thought that you put into the conversations, because in this game, everything you say has weight to it. And in the real world, sometimes we just say things to pass by. And you start to evaluate your conversations with people in the real world, and it may affect your work. It might affect your friendships with people. You might come back and realize, man, why am I friends with some of these people? Or why do I work where I work? I need to make some changes. So this game changes people, and whether it's a 1 day, 3 day, maybe you get on CBS. I mean, let's look at those people. There's some people that
I can't imagine, because you make a bad move, and this is just a game, like a game we do for fun. And I'm not going to say what game, but I got voted out with an idol in my pocket once, and I'm telling you, I relived that for 6 months, and it's like, oh my God, and it does consume you. Like,
one thing I think is great is that everybody still finds a positive experience from everything. And for all three of you, I love seeing when people have made it really far in a game and have excelled their game to a different level that they may have not done before. And if you got to grow at our game to another level, it just means the next game is probably going to be that much better. Or maybe there's not a next game. Maybe you're hanging your hat and saying, this was it for me. I really did a lot of the things that I wanted to do when I look back on my game. I had a great social game, strategic game, physical game, everything was there. Or I just don't know how much more of this I have in me, or man, I'm craving more. I need something else. So I'm proud of everybody for being here, trying our game out and having the experiences that you have. I think you all did a really great job, and don't have anything that I think I could say differently about anybody or their games that they played.
Nathan, I want to come to you because this ended up being quite the close vote, which we're going to get to in the end. Did that surprise you at all, given how the final trial was going, or did you think it would be that close? It wouldn't be a unanimous thing.
So we discussed it before we went live earlier. I think I can call this now. This is the best Final 3 I've ever seen in a live game. Like, just overall average gameplay, I don't think I've seen anything that's close to it. Normally, there's one person who, they may not be bad, but they're significantly weaker than the other two. Here, it's just like three really, really, really strong players. And not only are they strong players, they're not even... none of them have people who are like super, super, super angry with them, obviously. So I was very excited to see how this vote went down. Actually, watching these live games, both being on production and seeing them on YouTube and stuff, it's made me come to the realization that what we see on TV, where there's one clear winner and the other two finalists or one finalist is just leagues below them, it's made me realize that probably wasn't the case in real life, because that rarely happens when you see these live games.
I agree. I think you hit it on the head there, especially getting to be there in production, myself as well, getting to watch the game. It's like, even if somebody doesn't end up getting a lot of votes or no votes, it's rarely just because they completely crap the bed, like the TV show would make you believe. And obviously it's a TV show. They only have so much time, but you see the vote count versus what probably was really happening out there was someone who played a pretty decent game, just wasn't comparable to the winner or the first runner up. So I think you make a really valid point there.
And I constantly criticize modern, like, Survivor, the new era. Like, I have a lot of criticisms of it. That's actually one thing I think we've started to do better, is acknowledging, like, hey, all three of these finalists had a story and that kind of thing.
Yeah, back in the older seasons, they would. I don't think they cared that much. I mean, I don't want to say that, but
No.
like they didn't try to pretend like this is an equal match or like tell this person's story. You know, they
Yeah.
would, especially in the final three. It's like, all right, these are the two, and then this person is here too.
Yeah.
When they had a story, they got here for a reason. They did things, So I think you make a good point there.
Nathan, sorry, Parker. I just
No,
want to
go
give
ahead.
that to Nathan because that means a lot, for me, because there was an earlier podcast where you said, does Jared know his threat level, at one point? And then there was another one where you're like, I think Jared's going home. And I'm just ribbing you here. Part of my dry humor. But no, I appreciate the shout out, man. And, I was excited to talk to you in particular after those comments.
Well, Jared, you're reenacting my conversations with Parker because I don't remember saying either of those things, but I believe I said them. I just have a very poor memory, so thank you for jogging that here.
I got tabs. Sorry, Parker. Dude.
No, you didn't interrupt at all. I'm glad you said that. And that's how you know. I'll tell you, Nathan is the type of guy that when he says something, he means it. He's not just fumming around. He's not just trying to say it to be nice. He'll say what he thinks. So when he says this is the best final three he's seen in the live game, he's meaning it. So it's a big compliment.
So many, I mean, you've reviewed so many. So just to say that holistically, that has a lot of credence, I think. So thank you.
Yeah.
Just go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I very much appreciate that, especially just given that I haven't done a ton of these, and the one that I did prior to Angelica, I flopped in like a glorious fashion, and it just like haunted me until Angelica, where I was like, is this this could be my last hurrah, to Jason's point. Like I was already thinking to myself, this will be it. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna go for broke with everything. So that's why I was crying. That's why I was putting myself in fire. That's why I was making people laugh and being a complete goof out there, because I thought this was it. And it truly is a testament to how being yourself is the best thing you can do in these games. So it gave me a lot of confidence. And Nathan, it's very gratifying to hear that it was appreciated by the folks watching.
And Jason, even just the seasons that we've covered on Angelica, if I want to limit it to Angelica, not just all live games, we've had some great final tribal combinations these last few. You had Amy and Taylor, you had Christina, Mark, and Dan last time. You had these three, all been very solid competitors. Where each, I'd say, all of them had a reason for being there and were worthy of votes.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the game has given some great opportunities these last few years, whether it's just the way that it breaks down, the way that we're casting. I don't know. I haven't really thought that much about it, but I love that, everybody is verified for being here. Like they all have their own reasons. Everybody they played a great game. So I loved this final three. I thought it was awesome. It rocked. It ended the way that I think you could expect based on the way that our season went. You couldn't ask for something better. I mean, we're at a new location. We're trying something new. We're all nervous. It just was so cool. It was so much fun to see that. I was shocked, to be honest with you. I was like, all right, this is going to be awesome. So,
you know what this means now that Parker pointed that out? Y'all are due for a Gabon final three next time, where it's like three people. Oh God, we have to vote for one of these people here. Oh no.
I didn't mean to put it out there. Sorry.
Well, now that it's out there, it could just float away.
So, Nathan, this end game especially has been, I said it a few podcasts ago, like Survivor fan fiction levels. We had Sandra with the idol plays, idling out two people, one so votes. This finale, I would say, had two fanfic moments. One being Matt putting himself in the fire, coming out and winning, and two, not only all the final three getting a vote, which is very nice to see, a plurality vote and a tie. Nathan, this was riveting to watch.
Your like international seasons and live games better. Has this ever happened before where all three finalists got more than one vote? This was wild to me.
More than one, I don't want to say it's never happened, but I've never seen it personally. So no, like I've seen all three finalists get votes, but more than one, no. Especially with only 8 jurors. Like this
Yeah,
was
that's
absolutely
what's
crazy.
also wild about this is it's not like you guys had like some other seasons where okay, we have 13 people voting here. It was only 8 votes, which again is insane.
Right. And I love that the jury gave everybody a chance seemingly, and the votes spread out how they did, but so Jason, do you do the tallying of the votes like Jeff does when you go into the booth so you know the vote count that's about to happen?
You know, it varies from season to season.
Okay.
Sometimes I want to be left out of the loop so that my reaction is as authentic as it can be. Other times, just for pure planning purposes, we need to know. Um, this one here was one that, you know, I needed to know. And I was excited to know about it, but it also allowed me to be able to script this and have an opportunity to really make this fun. I will say that my reaction was, you know, I was bouncing for joy. I was like, all right, this is cool. And no offense, it could have gone any which way. As long as it went this way as a tie and having a decision maker in there, I was excited. I was like, it could have been any of you, and I would have been excited for all. It just was so cool. And I'm like, all right, we needed this for our season. If it didn't happen, okay, cool, right? We got a great finale, but this just tops it off for me. So to go back on that, yes, there are times where I don't know. I just read them as they come out. There's other times where, you know, we stage it or we'll flip through them. So it really varies in within the game or within each season.
Jason,
some
I'm curious from a production point of view, because I know you all talked about this before Final Tribal, did the crew have a consensus we think this person is the favorite to win going into Final Tribal?
Going into Final Tribal,
Yeah.
to be honest, there was some conversation. I wasn't part of it. I'm sure a lot of others did, but I'm running around like crazy at this point. Just trying to get my thoughts together, just make sure everything's where it needs to be. I'm pretty sure a lot of the crew did have some picks on who they thought. We also make obviously picks at the beginning, and then somewhere near like, you know, mid game, we try to figure out where things are going. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conversations going on.
For the final 3, just you know, it's been a year, so if you can't think quite, no worries. But after Final Tribal's done and each juror's walking up to vote, I'd love to get a panel's idea of, did you think you had a shot at this? Did you think it was going to be somebody else? What was the thoughts before the votes were read?
I can say I honestly thought I was getting one vote. I was fine, and I was accepting of that. Like, I didn't expect to win against these two. They were amazing, both of them, and I expected Jared to win. To be no disrespect, Matt, you played an awesome game too. I thought I thought I was getting one vote for sure. I was floored when I saw that it was a tie. Like, no, I didn't expect that at all.
I thought I was winning the whole thing. I swear to God, I saw someone crying out of the corner of my eye. I hear that. I thought I had it. I really did. So, but
did you think it was going to be close or by a lot?
I thought by like 1, like decidedly at least. I mean, the fact that it came down to the way it did, at that point, I knew it was gone.
But you know what? And I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to say something. So it's funny because I loved watching back the episodes because even though Matt and I started on the same tribe, I feel like Matt and I never really talked like strategy or whatever. Like, we hung around camp and we all had fun, and he thought I was voting him out all the time. But we never really talked. So I never actually saw Matt's game. Like, I had no idea, like, all he did or, like, all, like, I don't know, his side of the game. So, honestly, in the final 3, I definitely thought it was between Jared and Matt, but that's why I saw Jared's game. Like, I never actually saw Matt's game until, like, okay, yeah, he won the last couple challenges. But I think I even may have said to Jared, but what else did he do? Like, no disrespect, but I was like,
yeah.
I never saw the other side of it. So I loved being able to watch the episodes and actually seeing Matt's game too, because we just never worked together, even though we were on the same tribe. Like it just never really conversed in that way.
Yeah. It's funny because I thought the same thing, right? I didn't see your game, Matt, so I'm like, it's between Sandra and I. Sandra, I'm shocked you're saying that because literally, as we're doing the fire challenge, Amy from production's like, it's going to be between one of you two for, for the winner. Which I firmly believe, that as well. I thought it was going to be 6-2 me with Matt getting 0. Sorry, Matt. And I still thought that way after the speeches because I didn't think anyone was like too far ahead, even though I thought Matt had the best one. I was able to, I guess, convince Ty and Ashley. I think they finally saw some of my game. I knew I wasn't getting Jordan's. Jordan. So unfortunately, part of my therapy process was I reached out to every single member with the exception of Veronica, just like, why did you vote the way you did? I didn't reach out to Veronica because I think she didn't like me very much. So, and I thought you were getting Veronica, Sandra. And then, so then that means, two people I didn't get were Jason and Kai's, which, clearly, Matt, you had the relationships there. I underestimated that entirely. I thought them two would be impressed with, getting idled out. I think maybe they're a little more salty, and but you clearly had the relationships with them, and those relationships were really strong with Jason and Kai. I don't understand Alejandro's because Alejandro and you, Matt, never played together. You weren't even on the same tribe. I don't think Alejandro even remembers my name, so I'm going to take that. And then I talked about Jabbar enough, and Sandra did a great job there. So, okay, I think I talked enough about that question, but that's kind of
Honestly, no. It's all of this is a testament to Brett and the editing and the production. Because quite frankly, the fact that we can come out of this and Nathan and Parker, you're able to say this is the first time I can recall watching someone where all three stories led to a very difficult tribal, final tribal. Like that's because Brett's telling our stories. Brett is putting these together in a way that gives us all equal footing come time for the viewer to make a decision. So, I can't sing the praises of Brett enough with how these episodes have been put together for the last couple of months. He has toiled over these things, putting a lot of time and effort and heart into it because he cares a lot about how these come out and how that story is being told for the game.
I'm so glad you brought up Brett because I was supposed to say this on last pod, supposed to say it here, but let's get ready to brumble. That is how I should have let off this pod. I should have let off the last one. Shout out Brett. And then one other thing about Brett, one of my goals watching these episodes was to get an episode title from something I said. I thought Storm Was Reckoning was going to maybe be the second finale, but he gave me the homage with Did You Get All That? And to me, that was what I enjoyed the most from this last episode was getting that episode title. So thank you, Brett, for making that dream be a reality.
I wanted to hit on something that Sandra brought up. If I had $1 for every time somebody said what you had mentioned, and I'm going to say it in a minute, I'd be rich right now. And it's directly associated with these games. And what you said was that you had seen and had conversations with someone, but you didn't really see their game. You just, we had conversations, but I didn't really know much more than that conversation. And I can't tell you how many times a jury member or another cast member or somebody in the finals says, we were alongside each other this whole time, and I can't tell you one thing we talked about that had any relevance to a decision in the game or this or that, other than just getting to know you. Mm-hmm. It happens so freaking much. And I would love to know from the jury what their thoughts were on this. Was there any particular people that they just didn't see enough of in the game to make a decision? How much of what was said at the final tribal could persuade them? Sandra and Jared, it was almost like the 8 Mile moment where Eminem's rapping about himself and says, "Tell me something about myself I don't already know."
Yeah.
You know, say something about me now. So Sandra goes and tells this huge story and timelines her game from literally the minute she arrives to the minute she sits down at the final tribal and leaves nothing to spare. And so now Jared's got to try and say something. And what does he say? I mean, they're clearly buddy here.
I appreciate you comparing me to Eminem because he is my favorite rapper.
It's just, I just think it relates to this because you went into such detail about everything, and you know it really allowed people to sit there and decipher some things. And sometimes it can hurt because you might give more information that is going to be pertinent to maybe somebody voting for someone else. By say, "Oh wow, you know what? Jared did that. I see where Jared made the string on this one or made the move on this. So, you know what? I was going to vote for Sandra, but I'm going to vote for Jared on that." Or it could go the complete opposite way. But either way, I would love to know from the jury. I almost would love to have a review with just the jury now and find out like a lot of their thoughts. Maybe we do another podcast, bring them all on and have like another round
Takes
table
notes.
So, anyways, that was just my 2 cents on that. You brought up a good point, and I see it all the time. People talk about it all the time. It's always a comment that's made at some point, either from a jury member or other cast members, and I think it's something that is always in every game. And I wish we could find a way around it to see how people could really navigate and truly go alongside someone and actually say, "Oh yeah, you know what? I remember that we had this conversation, and it was relevant to something in the game." So
we read the votes. 3 Sandra, 3 Matt, 2 Jared. It's a tie. Jared, you're tasked with voting for the winner right on the spot. And obviously, that's hard. I do want to talk about that. Obviously, you're bummed. You wish it was you. And now you have to give someone else the win. So props to you. I want to give you props, Jared, for your class in that moment because you could have been really bummed and bitter, but you had a smile on your face. You looked right at the camera, said the name proud, the winner of Survivor Angelica. So first, I want to applaud you. Not that I don't think Sandra and Matt couldn't have done that as well, but I want to applaud you for having class in that moment because that's a tough spot to be in.
No, yeah, I appreciate that because obviously I was bummed. I was obviously shocked, 6-2 to not even being third place. But yeah, thank you because that was tough, and I thought I did a good job in that moment.
Well, Sandra, I'm sure you've talked about it with the players and Sandra and Matt, but Jared, just for me, Nathan, the other viewers who weren't there, I assume it was your vote for Sandra was mainly a loyalty vote, or was there more to it than that?
Yeah, I mean this was not a hard decision. A, for the loyalty. I mean, if I couldn't win, you want your ride or die to win, right? And so as bummed as I was, for that, I totally think that Sandra is a well-deserved winner, represents our season well. And I also thought she played a great game. I think, the idols obviously were the leading driver, very visible to the jury, but I think Sandra won the Jordan Alliance, when a lot of people were vying for that. And most importantly with Sandra, she strategically shared with the right people who that she had the idols. I think a lot of people, they either share it to everyone where everyone knows it, or they keep it to themselves. And Sandra told it to her 2 closest allies who never revealed that she had the idols. And ultimately, we were able to, come up with those epic votes. So Sandra was great. Matt, Matt did something really great at like Final Five. Is Matt really kept talking to me about how similar we are, and I do believe, that was genuine. I talked about Matt being a strategic social player. I do believe that was genuine, but it also, to me, had a lot of strategy. It made Matt very likable in my eyes, and I totally saw that. And on a friendship level, I would have loved to have, given Matt the win, but ultimately, it was pretty clear I was voting for Sandra, and I think Matt needed to have 4 votes in this tribal to have a shot. Unfortunately, for him. But not to take away credit. I mean, I thought it was incredibly impressive to get to make it as close, Matt. You said it yourself earlier in the pod. You knew you had to make big moves, and you did to get to the point to where you were. So, really impressive. I also want to just say one other thing while the floor. I mean, just how great of a person also Sandra is. As just a human being. We didn't talk about like the money thing, at all. But without her even prompting to, she donated a substantial amount. I don't know the number. I have guesses, but to the charity I was raising money for, ALS. And there was no like, hey, if I pick you to win, will you give me the money? There was like none of that, um, you know, conversation going on. But just to Sandra's credit, just thinking about others, and that meant a lot, Sandra, to me. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you, do it,
You
Jared.
know, just a great person. So all right, I've talked enough about this.
Thank you. Feelings mutual. Love you.
Very well said, Jared.
I do have one question for Matt, though.
Yeah.
Jabbar. So in my head, I'm like the one vote Jabbar because I really worked Jabbar hard in the social. I mean, we kept doing the girl period thing. I had no idea what girl meant. He taught me that. We talked a ton. I really felt like the answer I should have given him was, I played the social game with you, played strategic with others. Here nor there. If Jabbar votes for me, it's 3 me, 3 you. I'm sorry, I messed this up. Let's forget about it. Let's say it's 3 me, 3 Sandra, right?
Okay.
And you got to decide. I'm curious who you're picking because I think Sandra picks me. That's
Mhm.
clear. So I'm asking you the hypothetical who you pick between, me and Sandra if you were the two voters.
Mm.
Pressure.
Honestly, I haven't given that any thought. I think out of respect for the plays, I would have voted for Sandra to win because I tried to off this chick twice and I blew it. And like, granted, those confessionals at the voting booth were great, but like, I blew it. And to her credit, she still didn't see me as enough of a threat to go, I'll take him out. So, so I think strategically, socially, and confidently, she earned a lot of my respect with those two idol plays. And that would have been enough to tip the scale.
Interesting.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I thought it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you're about to say something.
No, but like I have equally as much of a reason to give you the W2.
Mhm.
And I say that because in the game when we were connecting, on a very basic level, I do feel that you and I are very, very similar. And, I don't think you are the guy who is unpacking all your clothes on the top of your car in the park. Like, that was poetry to watch.
That was
But
hysterical.
but as the game kept going, I underestimated you. I gained a lot of respect for you, and I think that there's a lot of machismo that goes into being a bigger built kind of fella. And while I don't have the height, I do have the brawn. And like I commiserate with some of the thought of like people are just gonna like view me as somebody who could physically do something to ruin their game later on, and I'm just going to be written off. And I felt like there was a genuine connection that you and I just felt like perhaps we would get the short end of the stick for nothing other than like just the way we appeared. So I commiserated with you a lot on some of the things that you had done previously in games and how you had sort of gotten the shit end of the stick a lot of times. So I developed a good rapport with you to the point where I thought emotionally and socially you were able to connect to the point where I wanted to continue to work with you. I did want to take you to the end. And in that moment, having the wool pulled over my eyes to see that it was never me, it was Sandra. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful.
And I thought that moment, and I remember you telling me after tribal, like, well done, and that meant a lot. And I thought maybe I convinced you. At least you were able to see. Some people maybe able to see, just the moves behind the scene. Kind of makes me regret not putting a vote on Kai, just to show more of that visibility. Sandra had the one vote, but if there's a second vote, the jury's like, oh, who is that second vote? I thought it hurt that you weren't on the jury because I felt our similarities. Maybe I sway you a little more. But no, I could rest easy that it wasn't just Jabbar. I do have. Actually, I take that back because then we would have tied in and Sandra, votes for me. So Jabbar, I still am mad at you. But just one other quick point. I think the three of us have some of the unlikeliest paths to the final because we all know like the older woman
I was just gonna say that.
typically gets targeted early, and you very much were targeted early, Sandra. And if it wasn't for you just your loyalty, maybe a little pregame, but also during the game, maybe it's you at that point. But I also think something that doesn't get talked enough about is just big dudes just getting targeted. You see a lot of half the games I've been in, there's either been all women's alliance or even an alliance based on sexual orientation. And oftentimes I've been the brunt of that. And it has nothing to, just because of my physical outlook. And one of the things I'm really proud about this cast was the alliances that were made had nothing to do with characteristics that were based on how you were when you were born. It had everything to do with just what type of player you are. If you're loyal, you're trustworthy. And I think, Matt, you had a confessional in the final five where it was like, look how diverse this, this final was. And to me, I didn't even see it as anything, about age, race, sexual orientation. It was just who are the people that I feel I can work with and, like to work with, I trust, and maybe can beat. And I really felt our game exuded that really well. And to me, unfortunately, it's kind of a rarity that I'm seeing across these games.
Yeah.
So Jared ends up voting for Sandra, and Sandra, you get the winner of Surviving Real Foot Blessings and Curses. This is your moment. So I do want to ask, because you mentioned earlier that you thought that you were going to get one vote for sure, that you were confident about that. So you go from thinking you're getting one vote to winning all in the span of about 30 seconds, I want to say, of reading the votes, it ties, and then you get the vote to win. Can you just try to summarize what that feeling is like going from thinking you don't have it to ultimately getting the crown?
Do you want to hear what I said? Can I say that on air?
Yeah, go ahead.
There was a lot of F-bombs coming out of my mouth. I just know that. Yeah, I was floored. I was just shocked. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, and I don't know how this is gonna sound as far as on a personal level, but like as soon as I saw that it was tied, I knew like right then, as soon as I saw it was 3-3, which I was shocked because at first I'm sitting there thinking, this is going to look horrible. I'm going to get one vote, whatever. But at least I made it to final three. That's what I was telling myself in my head. I made it that far. It was the first time I had made merge. So the fact that I was in final three was huge to me. And then when I saw it was 3-3, I was just shocked. I was completely shocked. But then when I saw it was 3-3, I knew that I won because I knew me and Jared were so tight. And so I knew I had Jared's vote. So yeah, I just had to it was kind of awkward, like looking at Jared, like, you gonna say my name or what? Like I was just literally staring at him like, you better say my name or like I'm taking down this big dude right now. But yeah, no, I was shocked. Like I just was floored and honored. Like to say I was honored, and Jared hit the nail on the head, like just saying the fact that, normally like the older women get targeted and men, older women and just the older players tend to get, targeted early. And you never felt no one ever, and I think that was my, final five. That was when I teared up because no one ever made me feel like less of a player because I was older. So it was just really heartwarming, and I was really touched that 4 people actually voted for me.
I did see that after you won, Jason gave you some cash and a hat, I believe it was. What was the
Oh, I
monetary
have my
prize?
hat. I was going to put it on, but I had such a good hand day. I didn't want to mess that up. Yes, he gave me cash, and I was actually staying at a casino that night, and I ended up winning $200 on top of that. So that was fun.
What kind of hat was that? I wasn't able to tell.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Give me 2 seconds.
Go.
Sarnas, are you wearing the shirt? What shirt are you wearing?
I just have a gray shirt on.
Ah, boo. Thought we were
Yeah.
mixing again.
No, the other shirt's in the truck right now because we had the awards last night, and I packed it in the truck and then ended up wearing a polo, so it's sitting on my truck. But what'd you say something?
No,
I keep hearing about these shirts.
I think we got to get you some shirts.
Yeah, I think Nathan and I can take some shirts. I know I could always use a shirt. Doesn't matter what shirt it is. I could always use a shirt.
I'll go with you guys afterwards.
So
There we go.
There it is.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Oh,
And
nice.
it is signed by all the players.
Oh, that's
So it has
awesome.
everybody's
Nice.
signature on them. You probably can't see that part, but
That's cool.
I appreciate it, even if it ruined your good hair day. I appreciate the
Sorry,
effort.
yeah.
How much cash was that?
$500.
And you got 200 out of it.
And I got $200 more because I went. So I ended up with $700.
Oh my word, that's absolutely crazy.
Blackjack is a wonderful thing, and I was able to walk away when I was ahead. So
I have a question. $500. Does it really matter? I think I know the answer to this one. There's games that have way more money out there available. Maybe that's a drive to go play that game. We toy with it every year. Do we even offer it? Do we cut it down a little bit and put that money into production costs? Do we do something different with it? Maybe more mementos from the game. And I have a feeling that the 500 really isn't that important, and I don't think it changes anybody's game. It's not enough of a drive. Would I be accurate in saying that?
oh, absolutely, that was just like a plus.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't.
I would have just taken the hat and the sweatshirt. I was very happy with the sweatshirt too. Like just the title is great.
Nathan, was there anything else about this finale before we start to sign off?
Nothing in particular. I thought this had a very satisfying ending. This whole end stretch was a lot of fun. And the hat made it all worthwhile, clearly.
That's right. I have 2 more questions. First one is, as we said, this whole podcast is putting a nice bow on Survivor Angelica Blessings and Curses. Do any of our 4 panelists have anything else they'd like to add about this season?
I got one thing. I just want to give a shout out for Matt for winning the fan favorite or crew favorite.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, all right, if I don't win, at least I can win that. And I didn't win that. I was like, that's just putting salt in the wounds there. But Matt's so deserving of that. And you know what? He got Six Flags tickets. I'm not even a big roller coaster guy. So, Matt, have you gone yet to Six Flags?
I went to Fright Fest.
You
Yeah,
went-
I put it to good use in Jackson, New Jersey. So
Yeah, you live close
I was
to
very
Fenway
happy.
in Scotch Plains.
What's
What's that? You live like right there, right? 30 minutes from Scotch Plains, if that?
30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm there,
So-
man.
Anyway, well deserved there. And, I got to give a quick shout out to Troy because Troy, Taylor, and Amy did some consoling for me afterwards when people, were leaving. So just, type of guy Troy is, really likes to ingratiate himself in this community. And, Amy and Taylor, obviously, 2 phenomenal people. So that just meant a lot. Other than that, I just want to say thank you to, again, Survivor Angelica for just giving me this opportunity Nathan and Parker, I mean, for the therapy sessions. And just it's really been a thrill. I mean, Kurt and Brian doing this 20 years and, bringing in, hosts of the most, Cernus, Brett, Chris. I mean, I go down the line, but just the humility to put in the right people in the right place to create a product like Angelica really speaks volumes. So Kurt and Brian, just phenomenal. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Jared and Sandra, thank you for just making me work for it, honestly. I didn't know what I was capable of doing coming into this game, and I really didn't have a lot of expectations for myself other than really leaving it all out there. And I think I did exactly what I said I was going to do the only way I knew how. Parker and Nathan, thank you for covering these. And Jason, honestly, the best host out there. Thank you for narrating all of our journeys. Thank you for believing in us to play this game and play it 1,000 times over if you ever want.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now everybody's gonna make me cry now. I can't
I
cry
don't
on
do
the podcast.
Bring it home, Sandy.
Yes. No, I want to thank everyone at Angelica. Like the whole crew is amazing. I'm not really sad, but a little sad that I never got to see Ponderosa because I've heard so many great things about Ponderosa, but not that I wanted to be there. But yeah, everybody was top notch. I can't say enough about it. Like definitely my favorite live reality game for sure. Jason, I would have loved to given you the host of the year award, and I wanted to like fix that because you definitely had my vote. And Jared and Matt, it was truly an honor, and thank you for like just Jared especially like trusting me with that alliance. That was huge. And putting your faith in an older woman. And I loved being everyone's mama on the tribe. And I loved being Mama Sandra. And yeah, I just want to cry.
It's all good. It's what this game's all about. I don't need an award. Nobody here needs an award. We all do this because we love it. And this is the award right here. This is the reward for doing what we do. So awesome that there's awards out there. I hope nobody from any of that took anything hard. I think it's great that somebody put that on in such a short period of time.
I know. Yeah.
Everybody here knows what it's like to put something on like that. It's super stressful. Great job. It was fun. It was cool. And at the same time, these games happen whether that happens or not. And we pat ourselves on the back every single time, every single season. Hearing this feedback, seeing your reactions, that's why we come back for more. It's awesome. And thank you for driving Matt to really excel himself towards the end of the game and bring some excitement and some drive because, putting somebody to feel like they're in a corner like that and fight themselves through and win and just want to, snowball. That is production value. That's awesome. If it was just kind of ho-hum through the finals, it's like, all right, well, that excitement happens because of you. It happens because you players get to know each other and you create alliances and do what you need to do to get to the next level of the game. So, that was all awesome. And, everybody does a great job with this. Nathan, Parker, you guys are, saints for taking all the time to do this every for us. Come back for 24. We're going to watch it. You know it's going to happen. I'm going to be knocking on your door.
Well, speaking of 2024, my very last question. We start with you, Jason. We're gonna end with you, Jason. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that teaser at the end of the finale. Survivor Angelica, Medieval Mayhem. What can you tease us that you don't mind sharing?
Medieval Mayhem. There's been a lot of discussion about what we did well last season. What we can do well and also excel in this season. We like the idea of a theme. We found that a theme is kind of our wheelhouse now, and we do a really good job at it, apparently, in our twists. So you can expect a really high-level game again with some really awesome twists, some awesome production value, some challenges that I don't think that Survivor Angelica has done before, or maybe we've attempted, but these will be better interpretations. The theme is going to be great. Our cast is going to be next level. I'm really excited for that. Every season, the cast is great. You can never say one season's better than another. And I'm already excited for this cast. It's going to be exciting. That's about all I'm going to give. It's just think medieval mayhem and anything that can bring to the table. Think Renaissance. Just have fun with it. Let your minds race.
Perfect. You don't want to give too much away, but you want to give people something to bite on. Love it. So that's going to be it for us. That's all of our coverage for this season. I want to thank everyone who followed all season long. I want to thank all the production members and all the players who joined us on the podcast. I want to thank everyone who, even if they wanted the podcast, followed along and watched, talked about it, shared it, liked, commented. And that's all we got. It was another great season. I'm really appreciative that I'm able to do this, not only with Nathan, but with so many great people and getting to talk to so many people. So thank you guys again. And that's all we got.